Hello, everyone. Happy holidays, and welcome to another episode of the Pisgah Podcast.
We are your hosts. I'm Mangler, and that is Drew, and you are listening to Pisgah. We're coming to you live from beside the elf on the shelf.
I like the way that elf's looking at me, Mangler.
Uh-oh. You had a little bit too much eggnog.
Yep. All right, well, let's talk about some news and updates.
Yeah.
I'm starting to kind of pay attention to what some of these World Cup and EWS teams are doing, and it's that time of the year where you're starting to see people's resignation letters and talking about how great it's been to ride for their previous sponsors, alluding to the fact that they're gonna swap teams and hop on some new equipment. And, we really don't get to find out about those trade teams officially until the first. So, we got to keep an eye out for that in the new year, but it's exciting. You kind of get to see some fresh blood coming in and some teams getting some shakeups and maybe just some new energy altogether. And that's one of those things that can really change a rider's psyche and get them on a different path and just kind of get things cranking for them again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives us kind of something fresh to look forward to after, you've been on that like holiday high, so to speak, that first week of the year, coming back to work. Yeah, really nothing exciting going on for the next couple of weeks until you have like that 3-day weekend. But then you're like, oh, who's on what team? And what's the paint schemes? Just some cool, fresh stuff to really dive into. We can officially say that this past year, you and I have been riding and representing Team Pisgah Podcast. And fortunately, we have signed another year contract. So we will be continuing on with Team Pisgah Podcast for the 2022 season.
Sweet. I can't wait to tell my agent.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, with that coming to look forward to in the week before, it's Christmas. And Christmas is like a week away if you guys don't realize that. And if you haven't made any moves on your list of holiday goodies last episode, well, you're in luck because we have just a few more.
Yeah, and you're also cutting it close to actually getting something delivered in time for the big day.
Yeah, we can get stuff sent out ASAP from our web store, so that's an option for you guys. But beyond that, it's also nice to be able to visit somewhere and just pick up a cool gift in person.
Oh, absolutely. Product-wise, you may be starting to run out of some cool options, but there's always gift cards of sorts. Sycamore, Earth Mountain Bicycles, and the Hub all have Ride Canuga passes as well as their own gift cards that can be used for products or services.
All right, is that what you're getting me?
I'm not telling you yet. You have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, let's be honest, our bikes do need some love, so do visit your bike shops and get them to give your bike a freshen up.
I bought a bleed kit, earlier this year, and as much as I try, as much as YouTube videos I watch, I still can't get my brakes to feel worth a damn, so that's probably some Christmas love I'm going to have to give my bike. But, ridden hard and put away wet would be my bike's current status.
Yeah, I at least wash mine off pretty regularly because I really like a clean bike.
I do that.
But I can't say that I'm good about my adjustments and keeping things going and my bike making funny noises. And maybe it's just because I've been a bike mechanic for the better half of my life. I just kind of know what those noises are, so I don't freak out about it. And I think a lot of times when people ride with me, they hear noises and they think it's their bike and start to freak out. And it's sorry, I don't treat it very well sometimes, guys.
Well, it's, the old saying, a painter's house is never painted. So, when you're a bike mechanic, you kind of know what your bike can get away with not working right sometimes.
That's 100% true. I will say that the two things that I am constantly conscious about are the condition of my tires, and I probably replace my chain way too frequently, but chains aren't super common and available in the current market, so I've had to let that one go a little bit.
It's funny, a long time ago I asked Chris Aragus how often I should replace my bike chain, and he said, for you, every 2 weeks. For me, once a year.
Yeah, there's something to that knowledge. We'll delve into that into a completely different episode.
Absolutely. Well, guys, this week's episode is going to be a little different. We do not have a guest per se. As you just listen to Drew and I, we've been pretty psyched to work on this ever evolving project of the Pisgah Podcast. And we really thank everyone for their support and their listenership, buying merch, sharing social media stuff, just telling your friends. It really is awesome. And, we wanted to kind of go back over the past year of what we've been up to, what we've witnessed with the show, just all kinds of stuff. So we've got like a list of topics that we're going to talk about that, range from a various array of things. But, it's just Drew and Mangler on the mic for this week's episode. And yeah, Drew, what are we going to do to kick it off? What do you want to talk about?
All right. Well, you got this list here, and I've looked over it back and forth. I don't have some great answers to a few of these, but
And I don't either.
yeah, and that's great. The best part about this is that it's actually going to be a conversation, not
Yeah.
something that we have plotted out as thoroughly as some of the other things. So we don't even know where it's going to go. But the first bullet point on here is how we have seen the area change. So what are your thoughts on that? What have you noticed?
Well, you've been here much longer than I have. I don't consider myself a long timer in Western North Carolina. I've been visiting the area for a while, and I've got roots here planted now. But like a lot of us came here for the same reasons. We wanted to live in a place that's awesome, that has a great mountain bike trails, has a great scene, great friends, has lots of opportunity for outdoor activities. And there's a reason we live here, and it's because it's awesome. And that's going to bring people. People bring change. But also when you're surrounding yourself with new people and additional people, you too also are going to change. So it's like a mix of, the chicken or the egg. Did the people change or did the place change? But honestly, especially since COVID, just, the influx of people has definitely made an impact on the area. And one thing I have to give credit for is, groups like Pisgah Area Sorba, Northwest North Carolina Mountain Bike Club, and some of those people really stepping it up to get trail work going, because that's the one thing that I can physically say that I've seen change is trails. Some for the better, some maybe not for the better. That's subjective, of course, but that's kind of my vision on how the area has changed.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. Obviously, we have seen Black Mountain Trail change. And we've also seen what the G5 Collective has gotten underway out in Old Fort. So, yeah, physically, those are the things I've seen change. But my answer is going to be a little bit more meta. I think with this project that you and I have done over the past year with this podcast has changed how I see the area. And a little bit less of what are these trails going to do for me, what are the rides that I want to do, what trails do I want to ride, and what people do I want to ride with. And I've kind of changed my focus into a more holistic look at what the Pisgah is and who it's for and the people that are using it outside of my friends group.
Yeah, see, we both have varying opinions on that, and that's what's great. Things are changing, we're changing. It's all part of life.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where to take that from there, but yeah, that's just the way that I can lay eyes on it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. The next bullet point I had on this list is, I didn't go in really any order on these, just typing stuff up as it hit my mind, but some products that we are psyched on. I will kick this off because one product that I think has really improved when it comes to me riding my bike is Outbound's lights. We were really fortunate to have Tom Place on the podcast earlier in this season. He was one of our first guests. He was an awesome guest. And it's one product that I kind of got to see some of the development on as it matured, and seeing it come to market, seeing how much I enjoy using it, how much other people enjoy using it. It's one of those things that I think, yeah, this is awesome. It changes people's perspective on night riding, where some people, used to riding with, a spotlight on their helmet or something, but not trying to toot the horn of a company that clearly does not sponsor us. I've actually bought all my Outbound lights at full retail because I bought them early before they had discount codes. Yeah, so the Outbound lights are one, and then the other one is there's this like pressure point block called the So-Right that helps stretch your psoas. And after doing our episode a couple of weeks ago on body care, me learning about how the psoas affects your body, I went out and bought one of those, and it has made a huge improvement on how I feel. So those are kind of the two things that I'm super psyched on, and I know you've got a completely different point of view on this as well.
Yeah, I'll totally agree with you about the So-Right. That tool is amazing. I can't really go without using it for a few days and feel good. So I can't do other stretches without releasing my psoas first. It's super important. I like it. I'm old. I've had back trouble for a while. Won't harp on that too much. Another local product that I'm psyched on is Endless Bike Company chain rings. Shanna, thank you for finally making direct mount and cinch mount rings.
That is awesome.
That's all I've got to say about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Shanna, Endless Bike Company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
Otherwise, I'm psyched on products that are actually in stock.
Oh, there is that.
Whatever you need, if it's in stock and it's in inventory and you can get it, be psyched on that, because we're in troubled times with the supply chain and everything else going on in the world. So if you need it and you can get it, man, that's good news right now.
Oh, totally. And any product that's in stock that I need is probably also one of my favorite products.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Move on to the next one. Interviews that we were psyched on. You know, we're 44 episodes deep into a podcast season. So we've had a lot of interviews. We've had interviews with varying, people, fly fishermen, TV stars, rock stars, local legends, all kinds of people that have experienced Western North Carolina in one way or the other. So, Drew, I'm going to throw this one at you first. What do you got?
So I started looking back at the list to see, just to freshen up and remember like what order these things were in, because it feels to me like at least once a month I hear a new one that I'm really psyched on. And I have to say, I don't have a favorite that just stands out. I gotta say, looking back and remembering what I gleamed from it, the Pisgah Map Company guys, that was a really eye-opening one for me, and it was just one that I really liked. I just really enjoyed listening to Pete and Jack, talk about how maps are actually made, because we all look at them all day long, but it's some sausage that we don't necessarily know how it gets made, and that's something I learned from. On the other side of that, an interview that I did that I was psyched on was with Malcolm Hadley, because he's been in this area for so long, and I could just talk to that dude for hours, and I have in the past. So, how about you? Which ones did you like?
It's a tough one, man. There's so many. A lot of people that aren't in the bike industry, like people that I work with on film sets and stuff like that, they are aware of the podcast and maybe they haven't listened to it yet. But usually for them, they ask, "What's an episode that you would suggest for me to listen to?"
Mm-hmm.
And so for a non-bike person, usually it kind of depends on the person, but most people I will refer to them to listen to the Storytime podcast that we did with Graham Averill, Evan Voss, and Derek DeLuzio on their bike packing adventure that they did for Bike Magazine. I think that's a pretty good episode. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's also the one where I found out I had COVID at the end of it. The email or the text message came in like right as we were getting off the interview. But fortunately, we did that remote, so we were nice and safe. But probably the Brandon Watts interview is my personal favorite. Brandon's someone that I've kind of looked up to in the bike industry for a while, just the way he does Free Hub Magazine and then him launching Craft Zine. Zines have had a pretty heavy influence on my life. And so that played a big part in inspiring me to want to go down a media creation route within mountain biking, which led to you and I creating this podcast. So those are kind of the two that sit heavy with me. I had a lot of fun doing the Storytime podcast with Graham, Evan, and Derek. A lot of laughs, a lot of fun times. Just there were some good outtakes from that didn't make the episode, but I don't know if that'll ever hear the noise of daytime, but it is what it is. But yeah, had a lot of fun, hanging out with those dudes on the computer. Evan was a little reluctant to do the podcast. He wasn't sold on it, but at the end he was like, "Man, that was cool. I had fun. That was real cool." And then Derek and Graham both enjoyed it as well. So it's cool when you can kind of get your hooks in on a subject when they're a little reluctant to it, but then you have a really great interview, you have a good time, the episode comes out great, and they send you like a text message or a DM on Instagram or something, the week later when the episode drops, and they're just appreciative, they're thankful, and they're psyched on it. And that's been pretty much every episode, dude. Like everyone's always so psyched afterwards. So Brandon was the same way. Brandon Watts from Free Hub was psyched on it, and stuff like that makes me want to keep doing it even more. So yeah, those are my two bangers right there.
Yeah, those are good standouts too. And I think with the Storytime episode, I hope we can do some more of those, because I think the way that comes across to me is it's kind of reliving and kind of reflecting on things that you were type 1 in the moment, then it was type 2, but now you get to like reflect and think about how the outcome actually affected things for you and changed, maybe the way you approach some of your rides or your gear selection, or, even just the company you keep after you spend so much time with them. And, yeah, I really liked that episode as well. Is to, your next bullet point kind of goes back to what you were just saying, is, getting feedback on episodes from our listeners. And there are definitely pretty much every episode somebody reaches out and says something, no matter who that might be. But, there are ones that stand out that we get a little bit more feedback from than others. And for me, I'd have to say that was our, recent body care for mountain bikers episode.
Oh, yeah.
People don't really realize what goes into making one of these episodes come together. But that one took months. I mean, we had a plan for it, and we had to gather the conversations that we did, and had to even revisit some of those. And, that one took a lot of effort to put together. It's the longest episode that we have up, but it's also the one that I have personally received the most feedback about, and it seems to have really helped a lot of people.
Yeah. Feedback-wise, yeah. A lot of positive feedback for that episode for sure. Christian Jackson up in Boone is probably one of our biggest fans, and hopefully that doesn't offend him. But like whenever Christian sends me a text message, it means a lot, because he's a well-versed dude within bike media, storytelling, Western North Carolina as a whole. So getting props from him is really awesome. And then hearing from people that we did a podcast that somehow changed the direction in their thoughts, gave them some sort of improvement, or something positive. That's what keeps us going. I'm scrolling through my last text messages from Christian, and yeah, his last one was, "Your interview / ride with Lon was very good."
Nice.
Yeah, so he doesn't know Lon personally, but they know of each other from some of the mountain bike skills coaching stuff. Actually, Christian had complimented me on a couple others too since then. I guess I accidentally scrolled over that one. But that was another cool episode. What it boils down to is every episode is awesome, and that's why we do them.
Yeah, for sure. Like the one with Lon, I think beforehand we were talking about it, and I was like, I liked it. I don't know if people are going to get it, or, how the people are going to receive listening to something that might be better delivered visually, but it seems to have landed really well regardless. And, maybe that's just a thing. If, you're a listener, you're probably a mountain biker. So listening to the action of people riding bikes might actually kind of make sense and put it into your head, in a perspective that you'll understand.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
expect everybody to get it, but I do understand how, mountain bikers should pick up on that a little bit better.
yeah. My thought process for that episode with Lon was kind of inspired by my episode I did with Chris Hess, the drummer for Hoobastank, when we did the Mikan ride on Kitsuma. The difference was a lot of our listeners have ridden Kitsuma, so the things I'm talking about to Chris are easily visualized in your mind. Whereas the stuff I rode with Lon down in Alabama was more than likely unfamiliar terrain to a lot of our listeners. I tried to give some good audible descriptions of things. Maybe I was too psyched on riding to do that on some features. It is what it is. So I was wondering how that would go over with people listening, and no one said it sucked. So awesome.
Yeah, great. And as far as episode feedback goes too, another thing that I consistently hear is, to your praise, producing the show, that it generally sounds very professional and the production quality is very high. So that's something that is way outside of my wheelhouse and totally lands with you. So
Well, that's
kudos
what
for
makes
that.
us a good team, is because this is what I professionally do. So it's awesome to bring this to mountain biking, and I've been trying to get you up to speed on some audio stuff, and dude, you've been killing it. So
Yeah, it's fun
yeah.
to learn also.
hmm So moving on, kind of what have been some of your biggest surprises with doing the show?
I think my biggest surprises with doing this show are kind of touches back on the last bullet point, but learning of people that are listeners that I just wouldn't have expected. I'm not going to name names, but there are people that have approached me that were like, yeah, we've been listening and really like it. And, there are people that I've never really talked to before, but we've known each other and stuff like that. There's definitely some of that stuff going on. But I don't know, as far as, it's hard for me to be surprised anymore
Yeah, there's that.
because
It's
of,
been a crazy past couple of years.
yeah. But, I'll say that maybe they're not huge surprises, but they're just maybe thankful surprises. Just, like,
hmm
oh, cool. Well, we actually, like there's people that are into it that maybe, there's certain people that I expect to be into it, and then there's ones that are adjacent to that are also interested in it, and that has been a surprise to me individually.
Okay. It's tough to say because I feel like we're kind of numb to surprises at this point. After the past couple of years, we've been going through some crazy stuff, but especially Drew, you and I, some of the company we keep are some pretty exciting individuals. So some of the knowledge that we've been gaining from getting interviews with people, some of the feedback we get, going back to that, has been very surprising. The amount of support we get, definitely been surprising, and it's welcomed and it's loved for sure. My next bullet point is the biggest letdowns. For me, probably it's not a huge letdown, but when I did the interview with Tom Place for Outbound Lighting, he had told me that he had a good microphone. And I was prepared to send him a nice microphone to use. And he was like, no, dude, I got a microphone. I'm good. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, his microphone didn't work. And so essentially I had him go in his closet with his laptop and kind of speak real close to his laptop's microphone to get like the best signal to noise ratio I could get. And then I did a bunch of post-production audio cleanup tools on it. And that was kind of my big letdown on the show. Was that interview was important to me, and hearing about their products and sharing that with the world was high on my list. And that's kind of how I approach every subject, is like, you're now the highest priority on my list of making sure that you sound good, we both sound good, we have good audio, and we share good content. But fortunately, I was able to make it sound pretty good, and no one complained about it. So that's where I kind of sit with that one.
Right, and I understand your disappointment there, but I don't think most people picked up on that at all. I think that the quality is already high enough that I've listened to some podcasts out there that I'm pretty sure people are recording with potatoes or something because they're just, the sound is bad, but what we're able to pull off and what you're able to produce I think, is already above most people's high water mark as it is. So I wouldn't be super worried about that. Me personally, my biggest letdown have been a couple of subjects and people that I've approached about interviews that have just kind of fallen flat. There's a few. There's one in particular, and I'm still going to work on it. I'm just going to put it off till the springtime and try to get back into it. But
Okay.
there's people and there's places around here that I want to cover, and if I am hot on the trail and almost there, and then it falls flat, that's some effort and some scheduling that went wasted, and I'm bummed on that. But you know what?
Yeah.
That's gonna happen. So just got to
Mhm.
keep moving.
Yeah, you and I both probably have our own separate lists of like our target podcast interview subjects. And, we slowly work through them. And my process is like, I've got my list, I've got some potential ones that I want to try to like bring to life. Usually first I'll reach out to them to gauge their interest. And if they're psyched on it, then I'm like, yo, Drew, guess what? I got such and such lined up for a podcast interview. And you're like, that sounds like it'd be a cool episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got one of those that's kind of been back and forth for a little bit. We'll make it happen. We just had some schedule conflicts, a COVID scare once, but yeah, I got one I'm going to make work.
Yeah, and I think once we get this holiday season behind us, it's going to be a little bit easier to get some of these back in queue.
Oh, totally. 2020 was different for a lot of us. Some of us rode a lot. Some of us lived in an area or a scenario that didn't allow them to get out and ride or really travel, which, both of us didn't really travel a whole lot in 2020. But since we've been doing this podcast, we've traveled a little bit together, but most of our big trips have been not together. What has been like one of your like favorite rides or favorite trips from the past year?
I went to Whistler.
You did go to Whistler.
That was sick.
And what's not sick about that is I also went to Whistler like a week before you did,
Yeah.
but we weren't at Whistler together.
That's true, but
I'm not going to say that's a letdown though. We were both
No.
at Whistler, so it's a win-win. It's just not a win-win-win.
you can't have. You can have a bad time there, clearly, but a successful trip is a successful trip, no matter who you're with. I had two excellent travel partners when I went, and I also had some extenuating circumstances that made it to where I could almost not go, and required some overnight mailings of pertinent documents.
Oh yeah.
And we got in, and it was awesome. And I was so taken back by the whole thing that honestly, talked about this a little bit, but I rode like shit because I just was so on my back foot and in awe of and just out of my element there. But I had an incredible time, and I can't wait to go back and tick off some of those check boxes that I missed.
Right on, dude. Yeah, Whistler just it hits different. And your first time there, it's going to be eye-opening. It's going to humble you. It's going to put you in your place. When you go from, riding every trail in Pisgah and not worrying about it to getting scared on Black Diamond trails in Whistler, you're like, "Oh, okay. This is real." But yeah, I agree with you. It's easy to go to somewhere like that and get humble checked. And honestly, we all need that sometimes. And I kind of had that a little bit on a trip this summer too. I did a solstice trip with a bunch of homies, a mixture of some North Carolina and Washington State homies. And we rode some pretty gnarly stuff deep in the backcountry. And, I didn't drop down all the gnarly lines like some of the dudes did, but I had a great time. I had a super fun time. I rode some gnarly stuff, some scary stuff. I saw some beautiful views. I experienced some new riding zones, some new riding terrains. And also, I've been very fortunate with work this year. I've had some good travel jobs that have taken me to some cool places. And I've tried to, bring our listeners along for on some of those trips, like, riding Oak Mountain State Park with Lon Cullen and some of the other episodes that we got coming out. So trip wise, it's, my summer solstice trip was probably one of my main bangers. Me and Jessica did a trip for her birthday in May to Oregon. It actually ended up snowing on us, but we still had a great time. We did some big descents, rode some really fun trails in Oak Ridge. That's a really cool zone worth checking out. But then, I have to think about like a favorite ride of this year as well. And a lot of us will have that one ride. You're like, man, that was a really awesome ride. That one ticked high. And honestly, I'm having a hard time. Like I have a couple in mind, but riding with Chris Hess on Kitsuma. It was just a Kitsuma lap, right? But it was showing someone new that never even ridden this area. Also having him mic'd up and getting to capture his first time riding it and then getting to share it with our listeners. That definitely hits high on my list as well.
I don't have a favorite specific ride. I had a bunch of really good ones this year, and people visiting from out of town, as well as, checking out some new zones. I think if I had to pick a favorite, I would probably have a knee-jerk reaction and then reconsider about an hour later after we're done recording this episode.
Damn it, that was the best ride. Why didn't I say that one?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. 2022 is, around the corner from us, and just get us set the sights a little higher on some new adventures. And, sometimes it's worth exploring, going a little deeper, check out something new. A lot of our listeners are local to Western North Carolina, but we have a lot of visitors that come up to the area. So, we encourage you, check out the other side of Squirrel Gap. Maybe go ride some Mills River stuff. Maybe go ride some stuff outside of Boone. Lots of good options to ride. And, it's all about just adding to your list of awesome rides.
Yeah, that's a fact. I've got some places that I've gotten too comfortable with riding repeatedly, and I think my goal for 22 is going to be to break that habit and try to get out to some of those other places on weekends versus riding the things that I'm comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, most of us are comfortable driving an hour to go ride a trail. And hey, what's up with an hour the other direction? What's
100%.
Down the mountain?
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And, that kind of concludes all the bullet points, but I'm just going to add one here and ask you off the cuff. Doing this project over the past year, what's one thing that you've learned, that you've absorbed and just kind of added to your quiver?
How much I say which I usually cut out of the episodes, and how much other people say that I try to clean up and cut out of episodes. The knowledge in my head that has been acquired from doing 40-some episodes of interviews and editing and just talking with people, pre-production on an episode, figuring out details. I've worked on similar projects to this in the past and knew what it would take to build up the content needed to do what we're doing. But, I'm still learning so much in every episode. And probably one of the most special things I've learned was from our body care episode, from all 4 of our guests on that episode, of just how important it is to take care of your body and to do a little bit more than just bike ride all the time. That's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned.
Yeah, that's an excellent takeaway. I can also say that maybe I didn't not know that taking care of your body is super important, but it really drives the fact home because I've spent a lot of time in PT offices from injuries over the years. But even when you're healthy, PT is still something that you need to think about. But for me, I think the biggest thing I've learned has just been learning how to connect with people and to reach out and get these things lined up. It's not always easy to approach somebody and say, hey, I want to do this interview with you or have this conversation with you and record it. It isn't always easy to actually accomplish it, but I find that more often than not, when you just put it out there and say, hey, let's do it.
Yeah, all you
People
gotta
are
reach out.
generally receptive to it.
Mhm.
When my initial thoughts going into this were that, people were going to be reluctant and maybe not so into it, but been pleased to find the opposite.
Oh, totally. And I think that kind of speaks to a little bit about some of the driving points that you and I had when going into this project is so much of the media created in mountain biking now is somewhat centered around the look at me idea, right? Pretty much every YouTube video, all the YouTubers are essentially look at me's. Not that there's anything wrong with that. They're creating entertainment, and if they're entertaining, great. But we wanted to give a voice to those people that aren't the look at me's. We wanted to share the stories of those other people who are kind of, sitting back, in the edges of the shadows. They're doing stuff, but they're not trying to draw attention to themselves. We just happen to know a lot of those people. And if we don't know you yet, we're going to meet you soon enough. So get ready for us to slide into your DMs because it's coming.
Right, and also hit us up in our DMs and give us some recommendations if you've got them.
Totally open to it. We got a couple sitting on the back burner right now for some lovely recommendations. So we've got some good content coming for you here in the first of the year.
That we do. Well, that I guess concludes, the conversation between the two of us, unless you have anything else you want to add.
Man, the only thing that I care to add right now is this weather forecast I'm looking at right now. Because
right, yeah.
It is December, and tomorrow it's going to be 70 degrees in the mountains. Some showers calling for a little bit on Saturday. But, man, the temperatures for the next, till the first of the year are looking freaking perfect for mountain biking in the mountains. Like mountain biking, gravel riding, road riding, whatever you want to do, camping, hiking, take in those days. Man, look at this weather. All right, here we go. Over the weekend, we've got a little bit of showers on Saturday. Sunday's going to be a little chillier. Monday's going to be a little chilly. Mid-40s for the highs. Lows getting in upper 20s, low 30s. And then the following week, Tuesday on is like high in the low mid-50s, lows, low 30s, high 20s. Like that is outside playing weather for us. So we've got the holidays coming up. Be merry, be jolly, see the family, see the friends, but get after it because this is looking good. And I'm getting psyched to come play outside some more.
Yeah, looks like we're going to have another spring break this year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to be out of town for some of the holidays, but I'll enjoy the weather where I'm at regardless.
I think that's what you have to do is just, enjoy the card you're dealt and make the most of it because that's all we can do really.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that is a wrap on this week's episode. And as always, you can find us on social media. Just search Pisgah Podcast. And we've also got our web store going with shirts, koozies, and water bottles. And you can hit that up at pisgahpodcast.bigcartel.com.
And if you're listening to this while hungover from your company Christmas party, go ahead and click subscribe, share with your friends, buy your friends a Listen to Pisgah t-shirt, water bottle, koozie for Christmas gift. And you know what? If you get those things, you get those orders into us as quickly as we can. Let's just try to say... make Monday the last call for Christmas gifts.
I say we can go at least Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay. We're going to push it. We're going to push it. But get those orders into us. We're going to stay on top of getting those labels printed, getting that stuff out. And
hell, maybe even some hand deliveries. I've been on to drop some packages in mailboxes and late night around Western North Carolina.
Yeah, same. And I promise they're not mail bombs.
They are not mail bombs.
And I think if you guys are lucky, we're going to have one more episode here for you for the Christmas holidays. So that's our gift to you guys, something to listen to while you're traveling out of town to visit your family.
Right on. Well, Drew, we'll see you soon.
All right, man. Until